That thing you keep noticing everywhere isn't actually appearing more often. The frequency illusion. Why you suddenly see the same thing everywhere is proof your brain is lying to you about reality. Here's what actually happened. Say you buy a car, a particular unusual shade of blue. You drive it off the lot, proud of the choice. And within a week, that exact model seems to be on every road, at every light, in every parking garage you pull into. The obvious conclusion is that the car suddenly got popular. It didn't. Not a single extra one was sold because of your decision. The number on the road stayed almost exactly what it was the week before you ever noticed. So where did the flood come from? It came from you. From a shift so quiet and so fast that you never felt it happen at all. Your brain rewrote the rules of what deserves your attention, and then handed you the result as if it were the outside world, reporting back an honest count. That gap between what is genuinely out there and what you feel is out there is the entire story. And that gap has a name, an origin, and a mechanism you can actually see. And it isn't just cars. You learn a strange new word on a Tuesday, and by Thursday you've heard it 3 times, once in a podcast, once in a text, once from a stranger standing in line ahead of you. A friend mentions an obscure band you'd never heard of, and by the weekend their song is playing in the cafe, in an ad under a movie trailer. Couples expecting a baby suddenly see pregnant strangers on every corner. A new medical diagnosis, a new hobby, a name you're considering for a child, the same thing happens every single time. The pattern never varies. Something crosses into your awareness, and the world appears to answer back by producing more of it. On cue, far faster than any coincidence has a right to. It feels personal. It feels almost supernatural, like the universe is leaning in to whisper that you're on to something, that you've been chosen to see it. That feeling is genuinely powerful. It is also, in almost every case, completely and provably wrong. The effect only got its proper name fairly recently. In 2005, a Stanford linguist named Arnold Zwicky was writing about the strange ways people perceive their own language. He gave the effect a label that stuck: the frequency illusion, the mistaken sense that something is happening more often, when the only thing that's actually increased is your attention to it. Zwicky chose the word illusion deliberately, because that is precisely what it is. Nothing about the real frequency of the thing has moved. The counter out in the world hasn't ticked upward by even 1. What's changed is the sensitivity of the instrument doing the measuring, and that instrument is you. Naming it mattered more than it sounds. Because once a slippery, wordless feeling finally has a name, you can hold it still and turn it over in your hands. You can ask the one question the illusion quietly depends on you never asking. Is this thing genuinely everywhere now, or have I simply recently started to see it? But the effect had a nickname long before it ever had a formal name. Back in 1994, a reader wrote in to a newspaper in Minnesota, the St. Paul Pioneer Press. He'd just come across a mention of the Baader-Meinhof Group, a militant far-left organization from 1970s West Germany, and then, within about a day, he stumbled onto a reference to it somewhere else entirely. The group had barely surfaced in American news for years. 2 sightings inside 24 hours felt genuinely uncanny to him. So he gave the sensation a name, more or less off the top of his head: the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. And it stuck. Other readers wrote in with their own versions of the same eerie experience. A throwaway line in a newspaper column slowly became the everyday label for one of the most common tricks the human mind plays on itself. So there are 2 names for this. One from a careful linguist, one from an anonymous stranger, both pointing at the exact same quiet malfunction in how you count the world. So how does the trick actually work? It runs on 2 completely ordinary mechanisms. And here's the unsettling part: neither one is broken. The first is selective attention. The instant your brain tags something as relevant, new, useful, emotionally charged, tied to a decision, it begins flagging that thing in the background, silently, without ever asking your permission. You don't consciously decide to notice the blue car. Your attention simply starts letting it slip through a filter that had been quietly blocking it all along. The second mechanism is confirmation bias. Each new sighting feels like a small piece of evidence, so your mind files it neatly under proof. while the thousands of moments the thing wasn't there leave no trace in memory at all. You remember every hit. You never once counted the misses. Put those two together, a filter that suddenly swings open, and a memory that only bothers to save the matches, and you manufacture an entire flood out of a trickle. Not because the world changed, because your bookkeeping did. And here's where it gets genuinely stranger. Zwicky didn't describe just one illusion. He described a sibling born from the same blind spot. He called it the recency illusion, the false conviction that something is brand new, simply because you personally only just noticed it. A word you're sure is modern slang turns out to be 400 years old. A trend you assume only just started has actually been running quietly for decades, sitting in plain sight, waiting below the threshold of your attention. So your brain isn't only lying to you about how often something happens, it's also lying to you about how long it's been happening. It tells you everywhere, when what it really means is now and to me. And it tells you new when what it really means is new to me. Two different distortions, one shared root. You are not a camera faithfully recording the world. You are an editor, constantly cutting it down, and you almost never get to see the footage you quietly left on the floor. And this is not a harmless little party trick. It quietly steers real decisions every day. Start researching a worrying health symptom online, and every article, every ad, every passing comment seems to confirm the exact thing you're afraid of. Not because the evidence actually grew, but because your filter narrowed around the fear. Start considering a big purchase, and the world obligingly fills with reasons to go through with it. Adopt a quiet suspicion about a coworker, and suddenly every small gesture reads like proof. The frequency illusion doesn't invent your beliefs for you. It does something subtler and more dangerous. It flatters them. It gathers a lopsided pile of evidence and hands it to you as if it were a fair, random sample of reality. That's the real cost hidden inside the wonder. The same mechanism that makes learning something new feel almost magical can also lock you inside a story you've quietly stopped testing, where every single day seems to agree with you, precisely because you've stopped noticing the days that don't. Watch how it operates inside an argument. The moment you decide that someone is careless or cold or always running late, your attention quietly turns into a lawyer building a case. Every late arrival gets carefully logged. Every warm, generous moment gets waved through and immediately forgotten. Within a few weeks, you've assembled a thick file of evidence and an airtight conclusion, and you never once noticed that you only ever collected one side of it. This is the frequency illusion wearing the convincing mask of insight. It feels exactly like you're finally seeing the real truth about a person. What's actually happening is that your filter swung wide open for their flaws and stayed firmly shut for everything else. So the pattern you're now so certain of isn't the world finally revealing itself to you. It's the shape of your own attention, mistaken with total confidence, for a hard fact about someone else's character. So why would evolution ever build a brain that miscounts the world this confidently? Because the miscount was never the point. The noticing was, for almost all of human history, the ability to instantly lock on to something newly relevant, a fresh track in the dirt, an unfamiliar sound in the dark, a face that suddenly mattered, was a genuine survival advantage. A brain that immediately amplifies whatever it has just flagged as important is a brain that tends to keep its owner alive. The frequency illusion is not a bug in that ancient system. It's the shadow that system unavoidably casts. The very same reflex that lets you pick your own name out of a loud, crowded room, or spot your own child in a packed playground in a fraction of a second, is the identical reflex that suddenly floods your world with blue cars. You simply cannot have the gift without also inheriting the distortion. They aren't two systems. They're one piece of machinery, running exactly the way it was designed to run. It helps enormously to see what selective attention really is. Not a spotlight you consciously aim, but a bouncer you never actually meet. Every single second, your senses take in vastly more information than you could ever hope to process, and most of it never reaches your awareness at all. The filter's entire job is to throw almost everything away and pass along only the small handful of things it has decided you genuinely need. Most of the time, that's an enormous mercy. Without it, you would simply drown in detail: the hum of the refrigerator, the tag scratching your shirt, every anonymous face in every crowd, forever. The frequency illusion is really just that filter, briefly caught in the act of working. For once, you actually get to see it choosing in real time. And the only reason you notice the choosing at all is that the thing it suddenly started letting through happened to be something you cared about that particular week. This is exactly why the honest version of this story is so much calmer than the viral one. The frequency illusion is not proof that the universe is sending you private signs. It isn't destiny, and it isn't synchronicity, and it certainly isn't the world quietly bending itself toward your thoughts. It is, in the end, mostly harmless, a predictable quirk in how attention and memory keep their books. But mostly harmless is not the same thing as safe to ignore, because the very same effect that conjures up a delightful coincidence can also quietly harden a prejudice, inflate a private fear, or convince you that a pattern is solid and real when it's really just unusually well lit. So the reframe isn't to distrust everything you ever notice. It's to hold that specific feeling of suddenly everywhere a little more loosely, to treat it as an interesting question your brain is asking, rather than an answer it has already proven true. So here's a small, quiet experiment you can run on yourself. The next time something seems to be suddenly everywhere, don't fight the feeling. Interrogate it instead. Ask a single question. Did the world actually change, or did I? Then go looking for the misses, not just the hits. Count the streets that didn't have the car, the days you didn't hear the word, the moments the person you've quietly judged did nothing wrong at all. That one habit, deliberately searching for the absence instead of the confirmation, is exactly how you step outside the illusion, while it's still running. Because the whole mechanism only works for as long as it stays invisible to you. The world didn't get louder. You just started listening. And the moment you truly understand that, the flood turns into something quieter and far more interesting. A live, honest readout of what your own mind has secretly decided matters to you, right now. So that car you keep seeing, on every street at every light, it was always there, idling in the same lanes, waiting at the same corners, long before you ever thought to look for it. Nothing multiplied. Nothing arrived. The only thing that truly changed is that a filter sitting quietly behind your eyes decided one ordinary week to start letting it through, and then quietly called the result reality. Tomorrow, when the world seems to arrange itself around something you've only just noticed, you'll feel that same old wonder start to rise. But this time you'll know precisely who arranged it. Not the street, the one standing in it, finally watching the watcher.